Welcome back, everyone. Craig here. So I wanted to do a short introduction to this video. I think this will be episode 201. So this will be the first episode after um, our wall banger episode 200. It actually fits kind of nicely into it. So episode 201 is an interview that Jonah and I did with a friend of ours, Jeannie, who has her own podcast. We've had a number of episodes with Jeannie. If I think of it, I will go back and link to some of those below. It's been quite a while since we did an episode with her. So Jeannie is she's a not a Catholic, she's a former Catholic, and uh, but she's very what I would say um understanding of kind of our perspective, and but she has her own podcast focused, I would say, on you know sexual matters for couples and women, especially postmenopausal women. That was kind of her journey that led to her podcast. um she's very open and kind of an open book, and I would say, I don't know if graphic's the right word, but she's very explicit, which is why we like talking to her, so she doesn't beat around the bush at all. um this will be sensitive content. It's not going to be nothing you hear here is going to be scandalous for you, but it is for adults. And so, just be mindful of that. We're going to be talking a lot about primarily about female pleasure, the female body, the genitals, the clitoris, the ways in which women tend to experience pleasure and orgasm. So it doesn't necessarily talk. We don't necessarily talk dogma or rules or anything like that, but it really is, I think, a nice conversation just about how our bodies work, or how our wives' bodies work, and we will talk. Jonah and I will actually talk about this episode a little bit. Um, in one of our next recordings, because I think what we talk about with Jeannie, I think, is important and useful information as we try to grapple with this concept of other acts and what the church does and doesn't teach and why. So anyway, just wanted to put this little warning out there for you. You don't want to have this on necessarily with the kids or young adults around, and this may not be everyone's cup of tea. So if you have a sort of a weak stomach for this kind of stuff, and you might just want to skip this episode and wait till next week. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy the episode. Feel free to comment. I'll have Jeannie's information below if you want to use um if you want to, maybe check out her stuff. She does some coaching and stuff like that. So please let Jeannie know that you appreciate her coming onto this show, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Craig and Jonah here today. We have an old friend of the show back on, Jeannie. We did some episodes early on when Jonah and I were really stumbling around trying to figure this thing out. And back talking about the marital debt and stuff like that. I met Jeannie in a podcasting mastermind that I was part of, and we still talk to each other off and on. So I brought Jeannie on to talk about, well, we're going to talk about some really good stuff here. So before we get into that, Jeannie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know what we can about you, and then we'll start talking.
Well, I'll just keep it really simple. I'm a podcaster and my podcast title is, the name of it is Maximum Desire, and I talk about sex. I love talking about sex because we have a culture that has degraded it and made it dirty, and it's not dirty, it's God created. So I love talking about it. I think I really enjoy talking about it because it's taboo, and I love educating people because it's a beautiful thing.
I like talking about it almost as much as I like doing it.
Me too. I sure missed you too. Wow, I have not watched all your episodes, but I really enjoy you too. You guys are great.
I think we're hitting our stride.
Yeah, I was just trying to look through my phone to see if I could find when we first started. It's been about a year, not quite though.
Oh,
Yeah,
the time goes so fast. It's so sad. Oh,
yeah. Well, I will link to your show below, but we should do this more often because you really have some valuable insight. And I did for people that maybe aren't, well, probably aren't familiar with you. So obviously we're a Catholic channel, although we have collected a pretty wide range of people, Catholics and non-Catholics alike, and Catholics that have different uh, sort of views on or levels of acceptance of what the church says about sexuality and all that. You are a former Catholic, but you certainly come at this from a Christian perspective, and so I wanted to talk to you about some of these things, and I think you'll help educate our audience.
yes.
So I wanted you to come on and just talk to us about specifically female pleasure, orgasm, how it happens, clitoris. You go where you want to go, but this is your chance to really help educate us and our listeners on anything you want to talk about that.
All righty. I was sharing before that I had a class with an MD, and in that class they were all doctors, and I didn't realize it until 4 weeks into the class. And these doctors were so impressed because we talked about the female anatomy, which they didn't get a lot of education in medical school, which absolutely shocked me. And then second, when I asked the MD about our instructor, let's talk about orgasms and how many different ways a woman can have an orgasm. She refused to talk about that because she said it's up to the woman. Now, I totally disagree with that. And the reason I disagree with that is because that when I listen to a biologist, his name is Gary Beck, I think Becca, and he talks about when he coaches NFL players, elite, um, professionals, athletes, he never focuses on the process. So, for example, when you visualize where you're at and then where you want to be. So, you're here on A and you want to get to B. And so um, that way a woman knows where she's going. I'll give you an example. I apologize for coughing, but I'm just getting over a bad cold. Um,
Okay.
that that when I saw a documentary years ago about the female orgasm, female pleasure, and I was fascinated by it because I've never been educated, especially in the Catholic Church, and I'm married to a Lutheran pastor, and that's not something that we were educated in the Lutheran Church as well. So it's something that we have to learn on our own. And then in your relationship, in your marriage, you're learning, but how do you know when he's a male and you're a female and you have to learn from your own body? Like, I don't know what my own body can do. I'm just trying to figure out how to eat right and exercise, let alone how my body works when it comes to pleasure. And I'm like, is it okay too? Like, am I normal? And who do I talk to? So there's all these questions. So I was watching this documentary, and this woman had a mental orgasm. And she sat there and they gave her the music she wanted, and she started meditating and just quietly to herself. And I have no idea what she was focused on. And then you could see her body start to respond, and she was having an orgasm. And I thought that was fascinating. And so I thought, that's not possible. There's just no way. And you know something, that was probably 20 years ago when I saw that. And I'm here to tell you that I can also have a mental orgasm. And I really believe that um, a lot of orgasm starts in the mind. And you have to really be ready to you the stars need to pretty much align. You have to be feeling good. You have to be in a really good mental place and safe, really safe with your partner. And but you can have a mental orgasm by yourself. You don't need your partner. But what I'm trying to say is that you really have to be in a place that you're okay with that. And you're not judging yourself and shaming yourself. That's okay. Give
And it's
yourself.
some and it's something that can be done without any like physical stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? I just have to ask, maybe it's too personal, but I have to ask,
Go ahead.
what do you think about to make that happen? Because that could affect a lot of people's lives if you
Yeah,
could just,
yeah.
help that mentally.
So what's your question? So what was
How
that?
do what exactly are you thinking about to make that happen?
Oh, got it. Okay. Um, yeah, no questions off limits. So you just go ahead. I have no shame in this game. I think about a fantasy. So I'll think about what turns me on. And so, for example, for me, I like men that have muscles. That's just me. That's my thing. And everybody has their own thing. So I'll fantasize about a man that, like my husband, my husband has muscles. So, but I'll fantasize about him and a man that has
Him just a
amazing.
little muscular than he actually is, huh?
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. And and there's this fantasy because my husband's very mellow and I love him dearly. So when I'm telling you this, I love him dearly. It's my fantasy. That's all it is. It doesn't go anywhere outside of my mind. But like a man that's taller, because I'm with high heels, I'm probably over 6 foot. So my husband is like 5'8", 5'9". So I fantasize about a tall, dark, muscular man throwing me up against the wall and just having his way with me. So that's the kind of, but again, every woman is completely different. And that's why you can't put every woman in a box and say this is what it is. Every woman's turn on is completely different. Now, okay, for example, I'll give you another one because you guys know him, my trainer Marcus. And no, because I can have a mental orgasm, I'm really aware of my body because again, I'm going to be really open with you, is I can also have a nipple stimulation. So when I go to bed, I have to wear a bra because if I don't, the rubbing of the sheets at night, I'll have orgasm after orgasm all night because I trained myself to do that. So when I'm exercising, I know this is so much
Oh,
fun.
this sounds terrible.
Uh, so with my trainer, as you know, Marcus, when we work on mobility, sometimes he'll, like if I'm wearing shorts and a sleeveless shirt, sometimes he'll grab me and then I'll go, yeah, and I'm really upfront with him because we've already talked already. We've been on your show that you really can't touch me there because it sends all this these feelings and I'll have an orgasm. And he loves it. He just gets such a kick out of it because I'm so open. So I said, you know what? You just touched me that way. And I just had an orgasm because it's a touch orgasm. And he just thinks it's the funniest thing ever, but he's respectful. So he doesn't try to do that. Like he'll come by and brush me. I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't, no, no, no.
Is that
So
so when I walk by to pinch my wife's butt, is that why she slaps it away? Is that what she's afraid of?
I don't, maybe, I don't know.
I don't think that's it. But I'll just imagine that's what it is.
My mind is blown.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I looked this up and I thought, because there's some women that don't even have an orgasm. So, but this I thought was really interesting. I thought you might like to know this. Um, okay, so I'm going to share a lot more information than you want to know, but so because I'm so
Brilliant.
sensitive to orgasms, you can have so many different types of orgasms. So for me personally, um, in an hour, I think I've shared this with you before, but the number kind of changes, but I can easily have 50 orgasms in an hour. And that sounds insane, but I've worked on it. This is something that's important to me because I really enjoy sex and I enjoy it with my husband. So I want to just have the best sex ever. So there was a report done at the Marital and Sexual Studies in Long Beach, California, and these two doctors were what they did is they recorded an hour of women having orgasms and they studied this for, I don't know how long. I didn't look at the study, but I saw this reported that the most in their study, the most orgasms a woman has had in their study for an hour has been 134 orgasms in an hour. And I believe that, because I get to the point where I'm just like convulsing almost that I have to stop because I'm exhausted. So that's why I believe in orgasms. I believe that women, if they don't, and you're just, yeah, you're just smiling.
I'm
Uh,
I'm fascinated.
and
Fascinated.
I think it's fascinating too. And you know what's so fun? It's fun for the woman because the more orgasms she has, it actually gets her ready for her husband. And that it's preparing her to have amazing pleasure with her spouse.
Mhm.
So that's why I
Are you
really like talking about it.
are you talking about it helps like during the moment, or does it help her like you're talking about like completely separate from intimacy with her husband, but just being in the habit and understanding her body helps prepare her for when she's with her husband?
I think it's both. I think it's both because it empowers her to get her mind right and get herself prepared for her husband. And then when she's with her husband, to be able to um, maximize everything. I mean, to really take everything in, because when you have that kind of sex, it is mind blowing. It can go on for a long time because if you're having different types of orgasms just by your touch and your thinking, and I mean, it's so mind blowing. You can be in the bedroom for hours. So when I hear the average amount of sex, how long it takes, what, 7 minutes, from when you start to the end is the average. And then the average amount of sex a couple's having a month, you would think, let's say a month, y- it's act people, I hear people, clients and people tell me all the time, they want at least 3 times a week. Okay. But the average is 3 times a month.
Mhm.
See, so this is why I think we need to talk about it more in a safe place that's healthy, that's not dirty, that's all driven by our faith and based on how God created it. Because
Mhm.
that's the reason I started my podcast. Because if you look at some of these podcasts out there, they're just dirty and trashy. And I mean, as a woman, I'm just grossed out by these men, just totally grossed out. I'm like, you don't know anything about women. That's why women need to start speaking up and talking about female pleasure. Because once she really focuses on herself and her own sexuality, it just makes mind-blowing sex with her and her partner, her husband.
So how much of it is mental versus the physical? Like what on a percentage basis, what do you think?
From my experience, when I've read, mental, almost 90 to 95% is what and the reason why is because when you first meet that person, it's that body chemistry, it's lust, right? So your body automatically just is so attracted to that person. But once you've been married and you're living together for 10, 15 years, it's not that instant sexual response. So that's why women need to own their sexuality and start working on the mental piece, that telling herself, like, so for example, I mean, this is just everyday stuff. It's easy to go through your day and you get, excuse my language, but you just get pissed off with your husband because he
Huh?
didn't.
I have not seen that at all. Like
Not
this is new information.
not today, not yesterday.
Go on.
I love this. I just love it. So it's like, he didn't help me with the dishes and I cooked and I had to clean the kitchen. So now I'm mad. But then this is why it's mental. Because if you don't change your mindset, you're gonna lose out on the pleasure, and so is your husband. So instead, what I do is I think about all his great qualities. That's why it's the mindset, because I've been married 36 years and I still have a great relationship and I really enjoy having sex with my husband. So I think about his muscles and and sometimes I walk in his office and he's doing push-ups and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I tell him, I go, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so glad you're doing push-ups because I just love your biceps." So I think about his biceps and that's gets me going. So I think of the positive stuff about him and not the negative, because anybody can think about negative stuff. And then those little negatives can add up and they keep mounting and mounting and mounting, and then you snap out of nowhere. So I've done that. So that doesn't work, and it doesn't increase my sex life at all. It just takes away from it. So why not focus on the positive? So I always, and then when we go out, like you guys are gonna have a great night tonight, and I look at what he's wearing and how he's smelling, and I'm like, okay, and so that's where it's all mental.
Huh. Dolores saw me doing push-up this morning too, but she didn't comment on it like that. But
She saw you doing.
But she
Really?
did, yeah. That really happened. Yeah, that's funny.
So wait a minute though. She didn't say anything?
She was kind of busy with the kids. Like it was kind of, you know, like we were all together, and I don't know. I decided to do some push-ups for a while, and I don't know. She didn't say anything positive or negative, but she saw it. I don't know.
I bet you she's thinking about it. You'll have to
She very well
privately,
could
you'll have to
be.
ask her. Yeah.
I wondered that
And
too.
surprisingly, again, all women are totally different, but from the women I've interviewed, it's not, they don't get turned on by the hardcore stuff that you would think a woman would be like, you know, and excuse me, but I'm just being really open. Women don't get turned on by dick pictures. They just don't, they get turned on by knowing you really admire them and you desire them and you think they're beautiful. If you just go by and say, "Oh, you're just so beautiful today. I just can't take my eyes off of you." Oh my gosh. Women just that'll get her start to think, "Oh, really?" And if she's in a negative place, no matter how negative, you start feeding that and planting those seeds. She's like, "Oh," and then she starts feeling good about herself, and then she's able to feel good about you. Because, we don't always feel good as women, we've got a lot on our mind.
How important do you think it is for women to have a positive self-image? Like my wife, you know, we had 9 kids, and is she's lost like 25 pounds. And I
Oh,
always thought she looked great before, but she looks
oh,
amazing now. And she definitely is more positive about herself. How important is it for women to believe it, not simply have your husband, because he's got to say that. You're going to say it regardless of how I look like. I mean, that's I think the
yeah,
common comment
yeah,
that guys will get.
yeah, 100%. She does need to feel it. But I believe that starts with yourself first. So if she's feeling it, and it doesn't matter the size a woman. I mean, I know it's important that she feels good no matter what the size is, but most women want to lose the weight. So I understand that. But if you you just learn to accept yourself. So I'm going to be so bold to tell you, I never thought I would ever say this, but I'm almost 60. And I realized that I'm not going to be a model looking body, and I don't want to be either, because I know a lot of people are on Ozempic and all that. So they're losing 50, 100 pounds. I get that. But I've come to the place where I like being strong, I like working out, and I don't want to be this shriveled up woman that doesn't have the muscles. So I've come to terms with I'm not doing that, and I'm just going to continue to work out. And I like being strong in the bedroom, and I like to have that endurance.
Mhm.
So I feel really good about myself so that I can bring that into the bedroom. So I think that's where every woman needs to be and not depend. She loves the compliments, don't get me wrong, but don't depend on those compliments because you might not always get them. So you really have to feel it yourself. So what I do before my husband and I have sex, I get myself turned on. Period. I don't rely on him to do it because when I'm feeling it, I'm there. What I wear, everything I do is strategic
Mm.
so that it's mind blowing. And he doesn't even know I'm doing it. So it's the perfume I'm wearing, the lotion I put on before we go out. It's what I'm wearing because I feel good in it. I don't care what he thinks as long as I feel really good in it and I feel sexy. So I'm getting myself from head to toe already. I
That's
don't know if
amazing.
I don't know if that answered it, but I really believe in women empowering themselves because when they do, they glow and they feel amazing. And another thing, I just want to share this with you men, you too. If another man compliments your wife, this is my suggestion because I don't know how you two respond, but this is what I would suggest is never be jealous. Instead, tell her, "Wow, look at that. And I'm honored to be with you, and I'm married to you." Instead of putting her down because she didn't have any control of somebody giving her a compliment, none at all. In fact, as a man, you should be going, "Yeah, oh yeah, that she's mine. She's beautiful. She's mine." Because and I'm not saying you two do this. I'm not saying this as well. But if you talk to men, because that is jealousy, and jealousy is ugly. And a woman loves to get a compliment from someone else other than her husband, because you just said it. Well, you have to say it because you're married. No, you don't, but that's how she's feeling. So if she gets a compliment from another man, she's like, oh, that's so cool. Oh, I'm still got it, you know?
Let me ask you this then. So, if I recall from our conversations, a lot of this sort of awareness that you came, let's say, I don't know, in your 40s or menopause or whatever, um, a lot of our audience and ourselves included have little kids around. Like motherhood is very much part of our wives' lives, and is probably I would say the biggest barrier, biggest challenge to just any of that stuff. Do you have any words of advice for the mom of little kids who's just trying to like get through the day and then make some time for her husband? How does she do that?
Well, if you approach her after a long day and just touch her like, okay, we're gonna have sex tonight, she's gonna get mad.
Mhm.
She's gonna be really irritated with
Can
you.
confirm.
And because as women, our brains are like spaghetti. We're trying to take care of everybody, and especially Craig, I know you know you're populating the world, so I know you guys are really super busy. Thank
Doing it
God you
hard.
I'm telling you, and I mean that, thank God, because the birth rate's gone down around the world, and you probably have read about that. So thank God for you Catholics that just keep it going. So appreciate that because if you don't, we're gonna die off. But I just think that we have so many responsibilities that we just need time alone. So if you can give her time alone and just tell her, I really want to be with you. I think it's really important to communicate clearly with her in a loving way. Like, I really want to spend time with you.
Mhm.
And I really want to have a great experience with you, however, her love language, however you communicate with her. So and just ask her, what can I do for you?
Mhm.
So we can make that happen. But ask her instead of assuming, because men think differently than we do. And I get
Yeah.
that all the time with my husband. I'm
Mhm.
like, why didn't you do that? Or why didn't you even say anything? And I find that we're on the same page, but we're just communicating and asking the wrong questions.
Mhm.
It's not hitting the other person. But I would always ask her, how could I help you? And what could I do for you that you could feel good and want to be intimate with me? But I don't think I'm not putting you down. I'm not calling you out, Craig, but for some reason, smacking a woman's butt when she's making dinner or she's doing something, now, I'm just picking on you, but for other men, because men do it all the time. Sometimes she can get a little edgy and a little snappy because she's focused. She's in that
Yeah.
zone. She's got to feed those 5 kids or those, set against it. And then she gets somebody to slap her on the butt. When she turns around and has to maybe discipline a child, she's like, no, I'm just not there. That's not the time. You know what I'm saying? It's just she's not mentally there. So if she snaps back, it's just that it's her. She's just not in the mood right then and
Hey,
there.
I'm a fast learner. It only took me about 20 years to figure that out. So,
But I will tell you something, there is really hope because when the kids are older, and no matter where you are in this relationship with child rearing and stuff, and how old your kids are, when they're older, if you can just hang in there, it is amazing because it gets better and better. Don't believe anything that anybody says about you lose your libido and you don't have much sex or whatever. I've talked to sex doctors, MDs that say, I ask them, how many years can you have sex? And how old? How old is too old? And they tell me every single one says, there's never an age. You could have sex as long as you want, as old as you are, as long as you're physically taking care of yourself and you can do it. You're totally fine.
And that
So,
says something about how important sex is for
yes,
couples, as far as like being created by God for a larger purpose of connection.
yes. And because of the medical resources we have now, when women go through menopause, a lot of times the symptoms are they're dry, they don't have the libido. But again, with everything that's available out there, with the hormones and getting them in balance, she can have sex, she can be lubricated. She can be lubricated just by you touching her. I mean, because of what's available out there now, which wasn't, years ago. So for example, my mom, when she went through menopause, horribly depressed. I didn't know it until I read a book, and the way she's answering her questions, and she hid it from us. So you don't have to go through menopause depressed, and so
Hmm.
it's all good. And really good. In fact, I'll tell you something. If a woman keeps her body healthy and she's getting the proper nutrients and she's exercising and she's keeping her body in balance, the hormones, she's better in her 50s and her 60s than she was when she was younger. And the reason why is because when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're just feeling, I don't even really know what my body can do. And I don't really own it. I'm kind of uncomfortable. But the older you get, you're like, okay, this is my body. I'm gonna make it. I'm just gonna have the best sex ever and make the most of it. So if she has that mental attitude, she's gonna have amazing sex. And I've even had a young man tell me that single, who is a player. So I mean, we're not talking about a Catholic here, but I'm just telling you, outside of
Not a
that,
good Catholic anyway.
There's
that
confession for everybody.
Yeah.
he prefers older women
Mm.
because they know what they want, they're experienced, and they own their body and their sexuality. So they're a lot more fun. And so I've heard that before, when working with clients.
So what are the signs that maybe a woman going through menopause should consider hormone replacement therapy?
That's a great question. So 10 years before a woman goes through menopause, she'll start to lose her estrogen, and she doesn't know that. So what's going to happen is she's going to get really tired, she'll get crabby, and she's not going to know why. And when they do blood tests, it's not going to be low enough for it to be register on the results. So that's why it's important to go to a specialist that deals with hormone replacement therapy, which is called HRP. So the blood test, let me back up. The blood test, the results they get from their blood test, the um the benchmark that they've used for years and years and years, way back when my mom and my grandmother went and got their blood test worked, and they say, okay, old age that's normal. You're not going to probably have sex anymore because you're going through menopause. That's not true. And that's why these individuals that specialize in HRP have brought those levels up so that you can actually be 50 and have a libido like a 21-year-old with hormones, because that's how much technology's changed and education has changed. So, again, symptoms, big one is dryness and all the time. And and just really tired, again, losing the libido. Those are the big ones, and that's a big issue. That's number one that women talk about. They just don't have a desire anymore. But again, it's a lot of things. It might not be just the hormones, but it could be stress, because stress is the number one, killer now. It could be what she's eating, and as we age, our body changes. And so what we could eat when we were 21, we can't eat anymore. And that affects our gut. And I've been learning a lot about that too, because I'll tell you something. I used to love hamburgers. I could eat hamburgers and French fries. I can't do that anymore. So I'll give you an example. So last night, I really wanted to have great sex with my husband, but we had to go babysit, which we not had to, we wanted to. So we go get a hamburger and fries, go babysitting. On the way home, I'm like, my stomach hurts. So what happened, and I knew what happened. I can't eat hamburgers and French fries anymore. So my stomach started bloating. You know what? Sex was the last thing I wanted to do. So that's a perfect example. So when you eat really well and you're eating the proteins and the vegetables, your body is turned on and it's ready to go. So that's why, eating properly and exercise is so important. So it's not just hormones, but when it comes to determining if she needs to get checked, I would start getting checked. I started going through menopause at 39. And my good friend, who's a HRP doctor as well, she started going through menopause at 39, and that's all she focuses on is hormones because of what she had to go through. And so she could never have children.
I'm gonna reach out to HelloFresh and see if they'll sponsor our channel now.
Yes, yes. That's not a bad idea,
Let me say something. I bet no one looks forward to menopause as much as couples using NFP, Catholic couples. Like, we are literally counting down the days.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and that's why it's so important that when she stops menstruating
yeah.
and you to worry about getting pregnant, that she's healthy and she's
Yeah.
taking care of herself and she's going through the hormone treatment if she needs it, and most important, what I've noticed is I can get on these threads and the people who don't know anything start saying, well, you can use this cream and this herb and all that. They don't know what they're talking about.
Mhm.
So it's important to go to a specialist who will draw your blood, maybe take a urine sample. Also, they take saliva, depending on what kind of doctor you go to, and they really look at the whole picture, which is a really important because you don't want a doctor that just works in a silo, that just works on, you go to an ear doctor and they just focus on the ear. You want somebody who's focused on the entire body and how it's functioning, because actually she might not be going through or having any menopause issues. She's just got GI issues, in the stomach, and doesn't want to have sex because she's bloated, because she doesn't feel
Mhm.
good.
Do you know what percentage of women would benefit from hormone replacement therapy then? Like once they're postmenopausal?
I'm going to tell you from my experience, 100%. Because what's happened is, like, so you can take, women need testosterone, and it all depends on the doctor and what the doctor's telling them, but women need it. And I think I told you guys this story, so I'll tell you guys again. So I went to see this doctor who started in on hormone replacement because of his wife. He's my age, this doctor is. And so I knew early on something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. And so he started investigating, doing research. So he started me on testosterone, but not progesterone and estrogen. Okay, just testosterone. So he gave me the tablets. There were tablets. This was like 15, 20 years ago. And so it's kind of embarrassing, but he gave me a lot. Now, the average level of a man's testosterone can range from, I don't know, 500 to 900. I think my husband's about 900. And if you're over the top, like over 1,000, okay? Well, I started taking
Yeah.
this I started taking this testosterone, and women's levels can average maybe 100. Okay. That's why they're lower. See, that's why, you don't have women all over the top at 1,000. They're usually they keep it at 1,000 or 100. So anyway, so one day I called my doctor. I says, I don't know. We haven't tested my testosterone, and man, I'm really over the top sexual. I mean, to the point where I don't want to stray from my husband. So and he goes, oh my gosh, Jeannie, we haven't had your blood tested. We better get that chest tested. Now this is new. So it's not, I mean, he's learning as well. And my blood test came back. You know where I was at? 1,200. I was man.
Your
So with that
husband was
said,
begging for mercy probably at that point.
my husband was too. Yeah, he was going, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. So I have an idea of what it's like to be a man. So I can sympathize with a man. I really can. And I told him, oh, please don't take it off. Don't bring it down just a little bit. And he goes, Jeannie, if I don't bring you down, you're gonna start growing hair all over the place. Your voice is gonna change. I don't care.
Small price to pay.
That's
Oh,
right. I'm having so much fun. Don't stop it. And I will tell you, my doctor friend, who's the HRP doctor, she said the same thing. She goes, because she gives herself the shots, because she can, give herself what she needs. She says, if anybody breaks into my house, she says, I have a stash of testosterone, and that's the first thing I'm gonna go and grab is my testosterone. Somebody robs my house.
house is burning down. She's got to grab the testosterone before she
Exactly.
leaves.
That's what she said. So it's important to women. Once a woman experiences it, oh, it's so amazing. It really is.
Does it come in like a dissolvable powder that you can just put in water? Just
You're such a troublemaker.
hypothetically speaking.
So this is what I do for those people who don't understand how testosterone is given. This is why an herb isn't going to take care of it. I actually get pellets every 3 months stuck, in my butt, and it's time released. And I can feel myself changing. And the reason I can, because I have more energy, I sleep better. So it's not just for sex, it's overall feeling. And then my husband, it's cheaper. So my husband, he used to get pellets, and this is how low he was. He was under 100. So can you imagine if there are couples out there and they're not getting tested, and we're focused on the woman, but what if the woman is sexual and her husband's not interested because he could have low testosterone. So my husband had low testosterone, and then he started, when he was getting testosterone therapy, he had 16 pellets at one time. That's how much he needed. But now, and really, insurance didn't cover it at that time. So I mean, I could have had a couple Mercedes Benzes by now of all the money I spent, but it was worth every penny doing this because it saved our relationship. But now I give him the shot. So it comes in a vial of liquid. So I give him like a shot once a week. And most of my friends do that too. The wife or is giving their husbands the shots in the butt because it's a lot cheaper and you can get it at the pharmacy now. And then we used to also get little dissolvable things of testosterone you can just put under your tongue. And they were for my husband. But you know what I would do? I would take a little bit just to kind of get my boosted up. So it's like, wow.
Naughty girl.
I know, I was. But you know what? When you have great sex, you want to keep having it. So it's like, it's just so fun.
I want a little dial on my arm so that I can crank it up 2 weeks out of the month and then dial it way back two weeks. Out of the
Maybe
month.
Elon Musk will come up with
Yeah.
something for that too.
That would help. That would help me immensely in my life.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, I want to share something with you guys really quick, unless you have another question, but our time's running out, but I want to tell this really quick.
Go for it.
When we talk about we're talking about orgasms
Mhm.
and what kind of orgasms she can have. I want to share different types of orgasms a woman can have.
Good.
Real quick. Okay. So these are just the basic ones, and then I'll go into a little bit different orgasms. So it's the clitoral, which is the clitoris, vaginal, and only 18 to 20% of women can have orgasms vaginally alone. Usually it's blended. So that's another type of orgasm is blended vaginally and the clitoris at the same time. And the G spot, which is, there's different G spots in the vagina. And then there's the cervical, which means it's the deep peasant penetration all the way back. A lot of women say it hurts, but for some women, it can create an orgasm. And there's the anal orgasm. And they also have the the A spot, the O spot, the P spot, the U spot, and those are different spots. So for like example, the U spot is close to the anus. It's the tissue between the vagina and the anus. So those are the O spots and all those spots. Then there's the multiple orgasm. There's the squirting orgasm. There's the full body orgasm where her whole body will shake. There's the nipple orgasm. Women can have kissing orgasms. That's how powerful these orgasms are. They can have an exercise orgasm, and a lot of women won't admit that. But when you're exercising, it's stimulating so many different parts of your body that they can experience that. The mental orgasm, which is basically the fantasy orgasm. You're creating the fantasy, and then you can have an orgasm that way. The breathing exercise or orgasm just by breathing deeply, and she's really in tune with her body. She can have orgasm that way, and then a sleep orgasm, just like men can have orgasms in their sleep, so can women. And then also, this is what I've learned is that for women that don't really understand how orgasms work, you can have these small orgasms, and they're maybe not aware of it if they're not in tune with their body. So it comes in waves. So it comes up and down. So for example, if a man, I don't know, I can't remember if the Catholic Church believes in oral sex. I don't know. I don't know if I should go there, but
That's what you ask.
Well, and it's fine before sex for sure.
okay. So for a woman, if there's
19 minutes. Can't be more than 19
Oh
minutes.
gosh, we're not going to get into that again.
So for her, it can be these waves. So it can be strong and light, strong, light. But what happens is it builds up. So that's what's great is that she can build up. So these are small orgasms until she hits the big one. And that's the climax and every woman's different. So that's why it's important to ask her. And that's what's so wonderful and unique about women and their relationships because every woman's different. But a lot of times what women tell me is that once they hit that big one, when their body's convulsing, it's just that full body orgasm, they're done. I'm like, I'm done. You can't touch them because their body is, heightened and stuff, kind of like men too, after they ejaculate, it's like, don't touch them because their body's trying to come back down again. So when she gets the big one, then she's usually done. But when I told you that the woman had 134 orgasms, that's probably the small waves, because I don't know any woman that can have the big one every time because it's too exhausting. But it's the small orgasms and they build up, and that's what's really fun in the bedroom is when you keep having those small ones. And even if she's having mental orgasms throughout the day, it's building up to the experience in the bedroom with her husband.
Is the
But I
big
wanted to get
one,
that up.
yeah, so the big O, is that something that can come through mental, or does that typically require some sort of physical activity going on?
I believe it's more the physical, because with the big O it's a release, so your muscles are actually heightened and they release. I've I've never seen a woman mentally do that yet, or heard of a woman doing it. It's the
Mhm.
wavelengths that they're small, and they're so small that sometimes a woman doesn't even know. So a friend of mine, now I talk when I'm with my girlfriends, we talk about sex all the time. So I get all this information from real people, which I appreciate, because I don't like reading the textbook information. I want real life experiences. So my girlfriend, I can't believe that. I think it's so funny. She has orgasms when she's mopping the floor. And I'm like, how do you do that? She goes, I don't know. My body, it's that motion of back and forth and back and forth. And she goes, I just get really turned on, and then I'll have an orgasm mopping. So
We gotta
mop.
teach that skill.
No.
I don't know. The more I know about women, the less I understand sometimes, you know. It's just interesting that God would design women to be so different than men in that aspect. Like, and maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like that experience for men is just much more simplified as far as it's not like mental, your muscle, you know, it's just different.
It is. Really, it really is different. And if you're saying that, think about a woman. She doesn't get it either. She's not educated and doesn't hear this information. She's lost. She's confused. And so a lot of times women are angry because they just don't understand their body. No one's spent the time to talk to them about it, and educate them.
Is that the type of stuff that you can coach people on? Is that some of the work that you do?
Mhm. Yep, I love it. In fact, I'm working on material because this is why I like AI so much, because I'm working with AI to be able to create information so I can get that on my podcast. So they'll have links so they can just read the information, because it's really intimidating for a lot of people to talk about sex. You have to really trust a person. So it takes a while to build that trust. And I'm finding that with my podcast, it's like these people really don't know me, so that's why I need to get more material out there so they can read it and trust me, and develop that relationship. So that's why I value that so much, because it's helping me create material so that people can read this on their own. Plus, I'm still trying to figure out how to create a class and people can just listen and learn, because sometimes it's easier than talking to a person. And I think I
Mhm.
might have told you this. I did coaching with my cousin. I said, okay, I'm gonna do this for free. We're gonna do this experiment. And she said, I love it. Well, she could not do a Zoom call with me. I grew up with her, and she trusts me. And she goes, I have to do a phone call because I
Mhm.
don't want you to see my face
Mhm.
when I share what I'm struggling with.
Huh,
And that's realistic. I get that. I
makes
totally
sense.
understand that. And plus, people are judged all the time. Think about the abuse women have gone through. I don't know, it's crazy. Like, I think most women have been abused and sexually abused. It's crazy. And I'm not trying to blow it off, but the reality is true. So
Mhm.
as women, we have to move beyond that. We really do, because we all have stuff. We need to work through that so that we can really enjoy life in our marriage.
So, other than, you know, the basic compliments, what's a good way to prepare your wife mentally then, or help her prepare mentally for something later that evening?
Honestly, I would take her out for dinner and sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation and ask her. Tell her how you feel. You really want to please her, and to ask her to tell you what would really turn her on, like over the top, like really over the top. And it might take a
Mhm.
while, but and just keep digging. Don't stop with the first answer. You
Mhm.
know, Like just for example, on Valentine's Day, when a woman goes, I don't really want anything. That's not true. Most women, okay. Most women are saying that because they want you to push through that and just acknowledge that she's beautiful and that you're thinking about her, okay? If it's by a card, a flower, whatever it is, she just wants to be acknowledged. So don't take her first answer as real. I mean, the true. Just keep asking her and say, what else? And what else? Tell me more. Just keep asking that question. Tell me more. Tell me more. And so the reason you're asking that question is because she's thinking herself, going, I don't know. What is it? What is it? So you're helping her think and create answers for herself. I would always ask her.
I think that is great advice. I will talk to her about that actually. And I think it's interesting because, for me personally, I see things as face value. Like when I ask her what she would like for Valentine's Day, she says, oh, nothing, it's fine this year. I will accept that, but it does lead to conflict.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, it is a rookie mistake. It is, but it happens. You believe them or you want to, but it's not always the case, and it's difficult to discern sometimes what you should do.
Yeah.
Other than always go the extra mile, I guess.
There's a famous scene in the movie Chosen. I don't know if you've been watching that at all, but it's where Thomas, it's just a scene where Thomas is getting married, that one of the disciples. And I don't, it's not this is not real, but it's they're trying to get the point across. And he's trying to figure out what to get her for her wedding. And she says, I don't need anything for a wedding. And he's like, okay. Now Jesus hears this, and Jesus goes, hey, Peter, can you come over here and help Thomas? Because you need to educate him a little bit. That's not exactly what she means. And so he did, and he went out and bought her a beautiful gift, But I think the point is, I think you need to probe more with your wife, anybody, not just you, but just keep probing and asking, because I've noticed my husband started doing that, and I love that. Just keep asking the same question in a different way, and you'd be surprised the answers that you get. And then if she says, like for Valentine's Day, and she says she doesn't want anything, go, well, why? Why? And if you could have anything, what would you want? And then just even in the bedroom when it comes to sex, it's like, can you tell me what turns you on? Like, are there thoughts that you have you've never told anybody that we can talk about? And you know what's gonna happen? You have those sexual conversations, that's getting her excited for amazing sex. So if you take the time to invest in her and ask her these questions and keep going, dig deep, 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 she's gonna get turned on because you're talking about it. And a lot of women are mentally turned on by sexual conversations.
Well, I'm gonna take some of this, and if I end up with a 10th kid out of it, I'm blaming you, Jeannie.
I don't know. I was thinking about Thomas's wedding there. Just think of what it would have been like to have, the Son of God as your wingman, helping you out with that. I mean, that would have been really beneficial. Those guys were lucky. Like we're just trying to stumble through life with each other, but they have the Son of God right there. Like,
Here's some inside info for you,
yeah.
buddy.
I love
Well,
it.
we're nearing our self imposed deadline. So before we wrap up, Jeannie, why don't you let people know kind of where they can find you, what kind of stuff I'll link to it below, but pitch yourself a little bit, please, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Just the easiest thing is go to my podcast, Maximum Desire with Jeannie. You can just Google it, you'll find it. And I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much all platforms. And the most important thing is to just look at the show notes below, because then I give you a bunch of information. So I can actually have coaching calls with you. They don't cost anything for like 30 minutes. And then if anybody wants to continue the coaching, they can. It's totally up to them. It's non-judgmental. And basically I listen and ask questions and help them discover for themselves. I don't tell people what to do. I give them suggestions, but they have to take that that suggestion on their own. And plus, this next week I'm talking about prostate cancer. That's something that people don't talk about. And I'm interviewing, there'll be 4 episodes on that. So that will always be on Apple iTunes and podcast or Spotify. So and I tell you that, so if you have men that are struggling with prostate cancer, these are 4 great episodes because I interview a husband and wife that have struggled with it, and they're very open, and they talk about their sex life. They actually talk about what happens after prostate cancer. And it's important because my father-in-law had it, and my brother-in-laws have it. So Kurt, my husband, is tested every 3 months for prostate cancer, and
Wow.
he has to be tested anyway for testosterone. So it's he's getting he's keeping up with it, and he's been really healthy. And also, I just want to say this, and we talk about this in the podcast, is there is information out there, and the internet is not always accurate, as we know. Testosterone does not cause prostate cancer. There's reports that it doesn't. And I want to challenge the listeners on this. Think about this. Just use common sense. Who gets prostate cancer? It's men that are older, 40, 50, 60, whatever. Young men don't get prostate cancer. And the reason, and also young men have lots of testosterone. So as men age, they start losing their testosterone. And that's really important to know. So it's important for men to have testosterone, to feel healthy, to feel energetic, to sleep well. So testosterone's a really, really good hormone. I love it.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, we'll link to that below, Jeannie, for sure. We appreciate that. I hope people will take you up on that offer and get on a call with you. So we'll have to do this again.
Yes.
I have some ideas for some additional discussions we could have. So appreciate you making time. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Can I say one thing before you close?
You
It's
betcha.
been a year and I still don't know what Jonah looks like. So I have a fantasy of what Jonah
No
looks
one does.
like.
So what do you think I look like?
I think you're tall. I have a feeling that you're tall. I have no idea your profession or anything, but
That's good.
um, and I believe that you're one of these really smart people that think really, because to hang out with Craig, you got to be a thinker, you got to be smart, you got to stay on your toes, and you challenge him. So I think I'm assuming you have brown hair and
That's fair.
very well kept up. And I think you're probably lean, probably muscular, because if you did push up, you're lean and muscular.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder, I wonder if you're like 6 foot. Your voice sounds like you might be 6 foot, somewhere around there.
I don't know. I've
It's
never put the
close.
tape up to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, once this channel is fully monetized, we'll have a great reveal. But
Okay, that would
we got a
be
long ways to go, but
actually that would be really fun. That would be really fun.
I'll be even more muscular by then.
Yeah.
So I have been working out a lot, and my goal is to bench 330. So I'm getting there.
all right.
Wow, nice. Huh.
We're gonna keep you and the listeners wondering for a while yet. So
Yeah, I'd like to say I want to bench more than Mark Wahlberg, and maybe it'd be awesome to, maybe connect with him and do a real showdown.
there you go.
That would be cool. I love
Since
it.
he's Catholic and everything.
Can you bench at 3:30 in the morning though?
I know that's when he gets up. I'd do it for him. I would do it for him.
Very good.
You guys are so much fun. I just wish you all success. I really do. I just hope you blow it out of the water. I know it takes time. People don't understand that this takes time to build an audience. So I just wish you both really great success.
Appreciate
Well,
that.
thank you.
So we'll do it again sometime.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Hang on if you can.
Okay.